if you act like prey, a predator will treat you like prey. If you act like a predator, it'll treat you like a predator. If you lock eyes with a shark in the water, if you lock eyes with a cougar, if you were running through the African Serengeti, you're like a flashing beacon of meat. So it doesn't matter time of day or night, a human cannot run, period.
Is my concern about leopard seals a real thing? Welcome back to Untapped with me, Spencer Matthews, bringing you extraordinary conversations with inspiring people to help us all untap the potential within us. Today's guest is wildlife biologist, adventurer, and modern-day Indiana Jones Forrest Galante. He's traveled to the ends of the earth, rediscovering species thought lost forever. And crucially, he's an expert in the kinds of dangerous animal encounters that I can expect when I take on my 7 Ironmans in 7 continents later this year. I'm particularly concerned about leopard seals, and I'm told that he is the guy to tell me all about them. This is a fascinating conversation we're bringing you, and perhaps a frightening one for me also. So here is Forrest Galante. Forrest, can you tell us who you are and what your expertise is?
Yeah, with pleasure. So my name is Forrest Galante. I'm a wildlife biologist. I've basically spent my entire life and professional career dedicated to conservation. And I grew up in the African bush, so I spend a lot of time tracking and looking for things. My family ran safari businesses. So I've really honed in on being the guy that finds things that other people can't find. So critically endangered, edge of extinction, really rare animals. In some cases, people believe have been lost forever. Those are the animals that I primarily target.
And do you find animals like that people believe are extinct?
So far, we've uncovered 8 different species that were scientifically lost. The world had given up on completely. Some were classified as extinct. Some hadn't been seen in 140 years. Eight of them so far.
I literally, I realize we've only just started talking, but I can't wait to play this interview to my son. He's animal obsessed. And
that's awesome. How old's your son, Spencer?
He's young, he's 6, but he spends almost all of his time kind of comparing animals, asking me questions that I don't have the answers to. So, thank God for Siri. Forrest, the reason I aside from finding out about your fascinating career, I wanted to talk to you about, I have a challenge that's coming up in October this year that's going to see me swim, cycle, and run Ironman distance triathlons all over the world. So all 7 continents. We're aiming to be the fastest person to complete, these triathlons across each of the 7 continents, and we're ending in Antarctica, starting in Rio. And I wanted to just take you through kind of where we're heading, and I wanted to ask you what danger you think we could face along the way in terms of vicious predatory animals, I suppose. Antarctica is certainly my biggest concern, but I was wondering if we could just head through Rio up into Miami. What are we looking at in Rio, do you suppose?
I think the most dangerous creature in Rio is the people by far. Brazil is notorious for having a fair amount of good sharks, so I'm not sure where you're swimming, but I would be careful if you're near river mouths on your swim section. And as far as the wildlife goes, there's not much to be concerned with. In South America, you have jaguars and things like that, but the likelihood of a negative encounter there is very, very slim. If you were running through the African Serengeti, I'd maybe watch over your shoulder a little bit more, or through the Sundarbans of India. But in Rio itself, and even the surrounding jungle, even though Rio is surrounded by jungle, there's really not too much to be concerned with. The people, the mosquitoes, maybe the sharks is what I would be most concerned about.
Yeah, well, mosquitoes are the world's deadliest animal, right?
Indeed, by a large margin.
Yeah. It's funny you should mention the Serengeti. I did run through the Serengeti not too long ago. Not a challenge or anything, just a bit of training. Mm-hmm. We were down on the Kenyan border, and I said we were on safari with the kids, and I mentioned to the guy who was very kindly kind of leading our expedition that I'd like to go running, and he said, the only time that you can run through this part of the world is the middle of the day. Yeah. And so we would go running at kind of midday, and he would carry nothing on him. And I said, why can't we go running in the morning or the evening? And he said, because you'll be eaten.
Yeah, exactly.
And we were running in the same part of the tour that we would see lions and leopards and all kinds of stuff in. But he just said that they wouldn't attack you during the day. They're asleep and too lazy because of the heat.
Typically, that's true. I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures when it comes to predators. So you never really know. And I think you could always be looking over your shoulder. There are also just places in the world where, for instance, if you were in Bubi in southern Zimbabwe, you couldn't do that even in the middle of the day. It doesn't matter. The lion density is just too high. You know what I mean? And as a soft, fleshy, white human meat bag, it does not matter. You know, you're like a flashing beacon of meat. So it doesn't matter time of day or night. In certain areas where the density of predators is too high, a human cannot run, period. Now, in the Serengeti, you're pretty safe during the middle of the day because most of the predators are sleeping and the density's not as high. So it's just very different depending on the environments you're in.
I did find it an unusual, how casual they were about it. It's like, oh no, like there are lions here, and you know, if they were hungry, then it could be a problem, but they're just not going to attack you during the day. And I was like, okay, are we carrying guns or spears? And no, they were just, they were more than confident that we were like, you know, within reason, completely fine. They said that buffalo would be the main problem if we came across a buffalo, or an elephant potentially if we happened to arrive right in front of it. Right, moving up into Miami. Anything aside from cougars?
Both kinds of cougars in Miami. No, not really. You know, I don't think. Is there a swim portion in Miami as well?
Yeah, so in every continent, I'm swimming 3.8K, biking 180K, and running a full marathon, 42.2K.
Is the swimming portion always in the ocean, or are some of them across lakes and things? How is that divided up?
It won't always be in the ocean, depending on kind of current and danger, I suppose. I mean, I realize, you know, even when we're in Cape Town and stuff, you'd be unlucky to get mauled by a great white shark. But, you know, we will probably avoid the option when we can. That doesn't mean to say we're not going to use any pools or static bikes or running machines.
Yeah.
It's all going to be done out in the open. But if there's a perfectly good, calm, clean lake somewhere, that sounds like it might be preferable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. So, I mean, in Miami, sort of similar. I mean, there's a high bull shark density in that part of the world. That being said, Miami has typically very clear water, and so bull sharks won't really attack in clear water. They can, but it's very unlikely. More often than not, they attack in murky riverine systems. As you said, cougars in Miami, but I'd be more concerned of the older ones that wear jewelry than the cat variety. And, if you're running through the Everglades, there's tons of alligators, but they're not going to attack you. You'd have to literally jump on top of one in order to get it to bite you. So that's the thing about wildlife sort of across the planet. It's very dynamic, it's very diverse, but for the most part, unless you're in a high predator area like Southern Africa, like Southern India, you're probably not going to just randomly get attacked. The likelihood is always very, very slim. That being said, it's kind of fun to think of the various areas, and you're basically making yourself prey, right? You're basically running from things and evading things everywhere you go. So the question is, what could have a response to that and show interest? So thus far, being in Miami and Brazil, I'd say you're relatively safe.
It is the best thing that you can do to a predatory animal who's showing interest in you, to stop and do your best to not show any fear and make yourself big. You know, have you had any close run-ins with any predatory beasts over the years?
Oh, that's for sure. Yes, many, many, many. But it all depends on the animal and understanding the animal's behavior and the ecology of where they live and things like that. So for the most part, as a general rule of thumb, I always say this to people. If you act like prey, a predator will treat you like prey. If you act like a predator, it'll treat you like a predator. So if you're in a face-off with an animal that is potentially dangerous, whether that's a cougar in Miami, a lion in the Serengeti, wherever it is, a bull shark in the ocean, if you panic and get scared and run away, you are going to trigger a predatory response from a predatory animal. If you act like a force, if you act dominant, if you act like a predator, it will treat you with some respect. Now, predators fight predators all the time, so it doesn't mean that it's not going to injure you or hurt you, but your likelihood of getting it to stand down, or the likelihood of it treating you like a big fleshy meat bag versus something to respect, is much, much greater if you treat it like a predator. Meaning, if you lock eyes with a shark in the water when it's coming towards you, if you lock eyes with a cougar and you approach it and you make yourself loud and boisterous and basically say, bring it on, more likely than not, it's going to back down.
We are approaching my favorite Antarctica, but we do have a couple of dangerous stops ahead of arriving there. So we'll skip through London because, you know, I think most people could get themselves comfortable around the fact they're not going to get eaten by anything in London.
Except for the tinfoil hatters who believe that there are big cats outside of London.
Do they really?
Yeah, that's a real thing. I mean, it's like being in the wildlife world, I hear about everything, right? And what Bigfoot is to the United States is the large cat. There's a name for it. You'd have to look it up, but the large cat of the UK is. So allegedly, there are some, large cats that escaped from some zoo or something running around the English countryside. I think it's ridiculous, but if you see one, you can change that narrative.
Where are we next? Asia. Haven't quite pinpointed a location yet. I wanted to head to India just because I've actually not been, but I have heard that any kind of swim in India could be just dangerous. I don't know if not necessarily in an animal sense. I've just heard that, it might not be the cleanest place to swim for an extended period of time.
That's for sure. It depends where you are in India. Up in the north, it's totally fine. Sri Lanka is beautiful. The ocean's lovely. That's not India, obviously, but depends where you are. I've spent a lot of time in India, and of everywhere that you're mentioning, I would probably say that running through certain parts of India, if you were running through Gir, which is where the last Asiatic lions are, or running through the Sundarbans where there are sloth bears and tigers, or Corbett National Park or one of those places, that may in fact present the largest challenge. And all you have to do, Spence, is go on TikTok and type in like animal attack videos, and you'll change your mind about running through India, because it's a place where human-wildlife conflict is so rife compared to the rest of the world, because the population is so dense, and yet there is so much wildlife in India, such resilient wildlife, unlike places like here in the United States where the wildlife is not nearly as resilient.
By resilient, what do you mean? That it's less likely to attack or try and dominate certain areas?
No, sorry, I should explain myself. When I say resilient, what I mean is India is vastly overpopulated, right? There's bazillions of people in India, and yet the wildlife has somehow sustained. Do you know what I mean? The animals, the leopards, now live in downtown Mumbai and hop from skyscraper to skyscraper hunting city pigs. True thing. Look it up. It's incredible.
What?
So, yeah, I swear to God, downtown Mumbai has a dense leopard population. New Delhi as well.
We struggle to find leopards on safari in Africa.
I know. And that's what I mean by India's wildlife being resilient. It is so adaptable. The species there, for the most part, not everything. It's individualized to the species, but for the most part, the species in India are so incredibly adaptable. They're such unbelievable survivors that they've managed to coexist with all these people. But when you have that many people and that much wildlife coexisting, you get a lot of conflict. So that's why I was saying all you have to do is do a quick Google search. You'll be like, wow, there's a lot of things in India.
Did you say they pick off city pigs?
Yeah.
What's a city pig?
Good question. No, there's an incredible sequence in one of David Attenborough's Planet Earths, or one of those various series, where you see in infrared the wild boars, the wild pigs that have moved into the cities of Mumbai and New Delhi and places like that. And they're eating garbage and trash because there's a lot of it. And that's basically what they're sustaining on. But with those prey items come the predators. And now in have moved the leopards that are literally hopping from skyscraper to skyscraper, sleeping on the roof. They're in one of the most populated, densely populated cities on the planet, are an entire wildlife ecosystem. It's pretty incredible.
But do they not just pick people off all the time?
They do. Not as much, because it doesn't matter if you're a leopard or a tiger. A tiger is one of the few, but leopards
are the tigers in the city. Should we give India a miss? India doesn't sound like the place for us, I don't think. I think there are leopards on top of my hotel, apparently, in India.
There can be. No, I would... Look, there are only 4 animals in the world, Spencer, that actually actively target people and see people as prey. Did you know that? Only 4 species of animal.
That target people and see people
That
as
target
prey.
people.
Can I guess what they are?
Please do. There are only 4 species in the world that see us on the menu.
Are you seeing like big cats as one species?
No.
What?
No.
That's crazy. Okay, so that target people. Sharks occasionally target people?
Nope. There are no sharks that have humans on the menu. Sharks will bite people accidentally and make a mistake, but there are only 4 species that actually choose to predate on human beings.
Wolves?
Nope.
Bears?
Polar bears specifically. So you got 1.
Polar bears.
Polar bears will look at a human being as a prey item. So that's 1.
Are there any big cats in this game?
There are 2 big cats in the game.
Okay. Well, as you've told me that leopards pick off people in India, I'm going to go with leopards.
Good. That's 2.
Okay. Is a tiger another one?
It is indeed. That's 3.
That's Jungle Book knowledge for you, because he's
very good.
Is it Shere Khan? Is he?
Shere Khan. That's right.
He's not nice, so that's probably why. Is it?
That's right.
He wants a bit of Mowgli.
One more.
Yeah. One more. Okay.
It's not a cat.
Is it something like a mosquito?
No.
That's a good one though. But they do target people.
Indeed, but we're talking about predators.
Like wild dogs?
No, it's crocodiles.
Okay.
Crocodiles will choose to eat people. So those are the only 4 animals in the world that will literally look at a person and go, that's a prey item. So 3 of those 4 live in India, right? You have crocodiles, leopards, and tigers are all in India.
Crocodile's a nasty little thing, right? If you're swimming somewhere where there are crocodiles, would you say that the danger level was very high? So they will see you as prey, they'll come for you.
Indeed. And it all depends on the species. Contrary to popular belief, the most dangerous crocodile is a Nile crocodile, the kinds in Africa. Most people think it's the saltwater crocodile. It's not. The saltwater crocodile is a very close number 2, however. And then it goes, there are many other species of crocodilian. It goes way down the list. If there are alligators in a lake, I'll jump in and swim with them all day long. If there is even one medium-sized Nile crocodile in a lake, I won't get anywhere near it. So it just depends on the species and understanding them. But yeah, it's all dependent.
And these alligators, broadly speaking, if you don't poke and prod them and mess around with them and try and take a picture with them and stuff, they're fine.
Couldn't be bothered with you at all. They're puppy dogs. Alligators are the sweetest of the crocodilians. They eat fish. They don't eat people. They're not interested in you. I have a good friend. He's worth a look up, Chris Gillette. And you should see what he does with these things. I mean, he swims with them. He tickles their jaws. He hand feeds them. He pets them. They're still dinosaurs, and they still have a dinosaur brain. So they still go, eat thing in front of me when you're near it. But comparatively speaking, they're not on a mission to eat you the entire time.
Oh, but they will eat you then?
Oh, they will if they have the opportunity, and the opportunity is very simple, but they're not choosing to. In other words, the difference is if you swim in a lake, a crocodile goes, ooh, something's splashing. That's food. I'm going to go for it. If you're an alligator, they're like, ooh, something splashy, scary. But if you happen to put your hand right in front of its face, it's going to take a bite out of it. Does that make sense? It's two very different approaches. Yeah.
I saw something on the internet the other day. I don't know why I said the internet. Instagram I was on. And it was a crocodile pretending to be a human that was drowning. Is that something they do so that you dive out to go and save it and then it nails
that
you?
That video.
Apparently? Is it bullshit?
Not only is that not a crocodile in that viral video, that is if you look closely at the hands, if you zoom in, you can actually see it's a large monitor lizard. Not only is it not a crocodile in that viral video that says it's a crocodile, crocodiles don't do that as a behavior. And secondly, that is a very injured, likely about to die monitor lizard. So it's like bloated. It might have plastic in its stomach, might have been shot in the head, who knows? And it's literally like flailing to death. And people are like, look, it's trying to bait me in to save it. And it's a crocodile. It's going to eat me. It's like a 4-foot-long lizard that's on the verge of death. It's not what you think it is.
I had thoughts, by the way, Jesus, these things are getting clever.
That's such a nonsense thing. It's crazy how easy it is to manipulate a narrative around wildlife and go viral. Like I could say that, my fish tank over here in the corner is in love with me because I have food in my hand, and it could go viral, but it's nonsense. You know what I mean? It's just like you can manipulate that narrative around animals and people believe it. They eat it up because they don't understand animal minds.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll give India a miss. Genuinely, that has been an incredibly insightful and interesting thing to learn. I had no idea about that, and I won't have the fourth event in India.
I mean, that being said, it's an incredible country, and
I'll go and visit, perhaps.
Pardon me?
I'll go and visit, but I won't pretend. I won't, display prey behavior all throughout India.
Probably for the best.
This is the new generation of wearable technology. I want to tell you why it matters so much to me. There was a time in my life where I needed to make some serious changes. But what I've since learned is that so many others have felt exactly the same way. Whether it's about sobriety, fitness, your career, or just finding a better path, that first step is always hard, but staying on the journey is even harder. Tools like Whoop can be incredibly powerful in ensuring that you stick on the right path. The all-new Whoop hardware is now smaller than ever, with 14 days plus of battery life, and comes with a host of powerful new features like Health Span, Heart Screener, and enhanced sleep performance insights. It's more than just a wearable. It gives you the data and guidance to stay accountable and keep moving forwards. From tracking sleep and recovery to helping you understand your body, Whoop gives you real insights that can absolutely make a difference. So if you're at that crossroads or already on your way, Whoop might just be the tool that helps you keep going. Click the link below for your first month free. This is a quick message to say thanks so much for listening. And if you haven't already, please follow and subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. We're still a new podcast, and without your support, we can't keep bringing you these wonderful conversations with incredible guests. From the likes of Sir Mo Farah and Alex Honnold to experts like Forrest and Maya Raichora, we think these conversations can be really impactful. And if you take a few seconds to subscribe, follow and review us wherever you are, it really helps us support the show. So thank you so much again for listening. Now, back to the show. Right, after India, well, wherever we're going to end up now, we're heading down to Perth in Australia. And actually, I was shown a picture of where we're going to be, and it looks lovely. But is there anything we need to be concerned about? I mean, there's all kinds of spiders in Australia. I do sometimes come across videos of these, like, spiders that look like small dogs, I suppose, kind of, just hanging out in the corner of your bedroom. And I'm just wondering, is there much to be concerned about on the spider front, scorpion front?
In Australia in general, there's no predatory creatures to be concerned about outside of sharks and crocodiles. They have a lot of saltwater crocodiles. They have a lot of sharks in the ocean. But Perth's a wonderful city. It's one of my favorites. If you're running north of there, south there, it doesn't really matter. All is fine. Just don't, I would be very cautious about running through like long grass and bush where you can't see your feet. Not because of the spiders. There are some venomous spiders, but the likelihood of that happening and getting bitten is very slim. However, if you happen to stand on a western brown snake or a tiger snake or some of the venomous snake species, a death adder that they have there, death adder, yeah, that's the name of an actual snake there. So almost every snake in Australia, that's a loose, people are getting upset that I say that, but almost every snake in Australia has evolved a highly toxic venom as a defense system. So the snakes in Australia are incredible, and they're lightning fast. It's not like here in the US we have rattlesnakes. You're like, oh, a rattlesnake, don't do this, but if you know what you're doing, you can pick it up, move it off the trail, whatever. There, the snakes are like, they're like whips with teeth. It's unbelievable. So of everything running related, I would be careful of stepping on a snake there. I really would.
Last year, I ran through the Jordanian desert
Cool.
for a while, for 30 days. Did a lot of running. And on one of the days, I came within inches of treading on a horned viper. And I was told by the Jordanian guy who was part of our local team there, the Bedouin gentleman, that had I trodden that snake and it had bitten me, that there was a strong chance that I would die. Now,
oh yeah,
is that true?
Yeah. So horned adders, the cerastes, the Arabian horned adders, have a highly toxic venom. It is treatable and you can survive it, but I'm assuming one, you were running, which means your heart rate was already accelerated, which means it's going to pump venom through your system much more rapidly. And two, I don't know where you are, but my guess is you were relatively remote if you were on a 30-day run. So the likelihood of getting to treatment in a fast enough amount of time is pretty slim. So yeah, absolutely. You definitely could have died. This is important to know too, Spencer. A lot of people don't know this. Everybody reacts to snake venom differently. It's like a bee sting. You know, if you and I both get stung by a bee, I might get a huge puffy red thing. You might get nothing, or you might stop breathing from anaphylactic shock. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't know with bees. You might be allergic to bees. You might not be allergic to bees. Every single person, you to your son, to your wife, you're all going to respond differently to a bee sting. And unfortunately, most people think that snake venom is just a blanket thing. It's not. Unfortunately, human beings are the same with snake venom, which is much, much more potent than a bee sting. So one person can get, some snakes will kill you no matter what, because the venom is just that toxic, right? But other people and other species, like the horned adders, it depends how you're going to react to it.
Is it an adder? Yeah, I said a horned viper. Is that the same thing?
Pretty much. They're a viperid. It's same in the general class. It's, you just never know how you're going to respond to it.
I was told that if you sat down, and this is by the emergency doctor who was British, I was told, a tree we called him because he's really tall, and his name was Joshua. So we had Joshua Tree with us.
Nice.
And he said that if you sat down, stopped moving, kept still, tied it off, and didn't move, then that would extend it, you know, enough time to be driven far to get it, you know, sorted, tended to, anti-venom, whatever. But apparently there is no anti-venom for this particular snake. So you would just need to, I don't know. Like, I remember feeling quite lucky at the time.
I'm not sure if there's anti-venom or not for horned adders, but it's mind-boggling to me how the entire world has lost the fact that compression will slow down lymphic drainage. And that's exactly what you need to do. So if you're bitten by a venomous snake, regardless of the species, regardless of hemocytoglobal, whatever toxin the species has, what you want to do is prevent lymphic drainage, because snake venom travels through the lymphic system. In order to do that, you want to have compression. But yeah, you basically just want to slow your heart rate, which slows, as I mentioned earlier, when you're running, your heart rate's accelerated. You want to slow down your heart rate so that it slows down the pumping of blood through your system and slows down the draining of the lymphic system. And then you want to put compression. It doesn't matter if it's your chest, your legs, your arms, whatever it is, you want to compress it as much as possible and try and keep the appendage, the limb, below the heart rate to try and stop the draining of the lymphic system, because that will slow down. It will not mitigate it, but it will stop the damage spreading as much from the venom.
I would love to see someone slow their heart rate who's just been bitten by a horned viper.
You have to do your best. The problem is, see, what happens, Spencer, is people get bitten. Obviously, they panic. They run to try and get to treatment quicker or whatever. And all that does is spikes your adrenaline, spikes your heart rate, and pumps the venom through your system more quickly. In that situation where you're bitten by anything, you want to try and be as calm as you can possibly be. You know, it's a delicate balance. You want to get to medical treatment as quickly as possible while staying as calm and relaxed as possible. So it's a very delicate balance.
Okay, so I'll try and avoid the whips with teeth in Australia.
I would.
And then that brings us to Cape Town. I mean, great white sharks, obviously, are on the menu in Cape Town.
As they are in Perth, too. So just be aware of that. But yeah, white...
This is actually genuinely, like, until this conversation, the only thing that I've been concerned about is leopard seals, and we're arriving at them next in Antarctica.
Yeah, sure.
I had no idea, to be honest, that we were dealing with all of this. And like, I'm definitely not going to India.
And look, I said it earlier and I'll say it again. Don't be too nervous about it. You wanted to talk about what are the risks. I want to be clear. These risks are all minuscule. You know, you're much, and now I'm just going to scare you more, Spencer, but you're much more likely to get stabbed by someone, hit by a car on the side of the road, struck by lightning, all three of those things, than you are to be attacked by any of these animals. But I'm an animal guy, not a stabbing statistics guy. So that's what we're talking about.
Let's run through Cape Town. What are we dealing with?
There are not a lot of predators left around Cape Town. It's very developed, beautiful place. I love Cape Town. Your biggest scare there is definitely the people. Similar to Rio in the sense of, again, there are leopards in the surrounding areas, same species and everything. They have a very vast global range, but the likelihood of an attack is slim to none. You're much, much more likely to have, a couple guys in ski masks come up and mug you. That is by far your most dangerous thing in Cape Town. However, until recently, Spencer, I would have said be very careful in the ocean with the white sharks around there. But recently, two orcas, port and starboard, have moved into the area, and they've driven the white shark population down to near zero. You can barely find a white shark in Cape Town anymore because these two orca brothers, port and starboard, have killed and eaten them all. They've eaten all their livers.
Starboard. Is that what the orcas are called?
Yeah.
Well, they've come in and just dealt with the great. Like, what a lovely service of these orcas.
Well, depends what side of the coin you fall on. If you're me, who films sharks for a living, you kind of despise port and starboard, and I've filmed them before. But they're these two orca brothers. Orcas are highly intelligent, and they've come in and they have just hammered the white sharks. Now, they've killed dozens of them, but the rest of the white sharks, being relatively intelligent creatures, have just moved out of the area because they know if they stay there, port and starboard will kill them. So, these two orcas moved in probably 6-7 years ago. And since then, I mean, you couldn't find a white shark in Cape Town if your life depended on it now, Spencer. Like, they have really hammered them. Yeah.
Will I see port and starboard?
It's a very big place. They like to hang out in Nelson Bay, which is a huge bay, sort of on the other side of Cape Town. But you might. I mean, I was there filming and I saw them. They swam right under our boat and we spent an hour with them. So you never know.
Are they friendly?
They're not, and I'll tell you why. Orcas in general they're not mean. They'll just run away. But orcas in general are very inquisitive and relatively friendly. I've hopped in with orcas lots of places around the world, and I love interacting with them. You never feel more useless than you do in the water with an orca, because if they decide they're going to do something, you have no control over the situation. But the reason port and starboard aren't very friendly is Cape Town had a very large ecotourism industry around cage diving with white sharks and seeing white sharks. When port and starboard moved in and killed all the white sharks, I'm not going to point fingers, but certain boat operators were very upset. So they tried to scare off port and starboard. They'd throw dive weights at them and rev the boat engines at them. And allegedly, people have even shot at them. So they're pretty nervous orcas compared to other orcas that I've worked with around the world. And I didn't really work with port and starboard. I tried to, but they wouldn't let me get close enough. They're pretty flighty. They don't like to be near people. They know that people mean problems because these charter captains that have historically taken people to see white sharks despise them.
Can they tell? Like, can they connect with human beings on an emotional level? So, like,
oh, absolutely.
If you were in the water, could they? Because I know how intelligent orcas are. Not that I've ever personally worked with orcas, but I loved that Blackfish documentary about Tilikum, the whale who had a horrible life and was unfortunately did kill that person that worked at SeaWorld. But there was a level of empathy for Tilikum, right? And the way in which he was treated. And, beautifully shot documentary. To people listening to this, if you haven't seen Blackfish, it's a sad but beautiful film about orcas and their intelligence, really. And do you suppose that orcas in the wild can connect with people on, like, if they wanted to? Like for example, if you were to work with port and starboard, would they be able to tell the difference between an angry boat captain who might shoot at them and you who is very interested in them?
100%. And I'll give you a good example. One of the first times I'll tell you a story to give you an example. One of the first times I ever dove with and worked with orcas, I was down in Baja, Mexico, in the Sea of Cortez, and we heard that orcas had moved into the bay. So I went out with my buddy Mike, who's another marine biologist, incredible cameraman, everything else. We took our gear and we're like, let's go find the orcas. Let's go dive with them. So we went out and my family was visiting. So I had my uncle from the UK, lives in London. He was on the boat with me. My mother, who's, 70-ish, maybe older. I don't know at this point in time. No, probably about, yeah. And and my wife and my 2 kids, because we were on like a vacation, but I was also down there with my buddy. Mike lives down there. So anyway, we hear these orcas have moved in. I dragged the family along to go look for the orcas because, might as well kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And after an hour or so, we find the orcas. And the protocol for diving with orcas is you go up like way ahead of them. Like a half mile or more ahead of them and hop in the water and let them decide whether or not they want to approach you. You know what I mean? You don't chase them with the boat. You don't get up beside them. You just go way up ahead, hop in the water, and they're able to use echolocation and everything else to know that you're there and decide whether or not they want to interact with you. Now, we did this for about 6 hours. And for about 6 hours, my family rolled their eyes and got more and more bored on this boat in the boiling hot sun. The orcas we'd take the boat way up ahead, hop in the water, and pull the boat away, and it would just be Mike and I with our cameras waiting to see if the orcas would come in. And almost every time there's a big pod, huge bull with a giant 6-foot dorsal fin, a couple calves, and a couple moms. And every 1 in 3, the orcas would come by and they just sort of give you a look, like roll on their side and look at you. You'd free dive down with the camera, get to like 15, 20, 30 feet and wait. And they'd come by and they'd just sort of slow down and look at you, maybe take like a small half circle and keep going. So for 6 hours, we did this, right? Over and over and over. We'd wait, we'd get an interaction, take 30, 40 minutes, reset, get another interaction. Not great footage, because it's just an orca barely swimming by, keeping its distance, probably staying, 35-ish, 40 feet away underwater. We've done this for 6 hours. We're exhausted, lugging our cameras in and out of the water. It's baking hot in the sun. There's no cover on the boat. My uncle from the UK, my mother's brother, he's a little bit younger than my mom, so he's probably in his 50s, late 50s. He goes, "Oh, can I give it a shot?" He's quite adventurous, but he's lived in London his whole life, so he's not exactly the world's greatest outdoorsman. No offense to people from London, but he's like, "Can I give it a shot?" And I'm like, we've been at this for 6 hours. We haven't got one great encounter. Why not? So we run up ahead of the orcas, where this is our end of the day. We're basically about to give up. Throw my out of shape, chubby uncle, who's never really interacted with anything. He can swim, but whatever, into the ocean. Pull the boat away. He's by himself with my friend Mike, who's been doing it with me all day long. And they split off a little bit. They kind of drift away because Mike's like focused on filming. And my uncle, who's just sort of splashing around, no idea what he's doing, never interacted with a shark, never interacted with an orca, in this tourist mask and snorkel kind of thing. The orcas come up. They're on this path. Like if my uncle's here and they're on this path like this, they realize my uncle's there. They can feel. Can't see him because of the distance, but they can feel it's an entirely different energy, presence, everything. They beeline right at him, and the entire pod, the bull, all the calves, everything, are 2 feet away from him, circling, swimming with him, going up and down. One nuzzles his foot, the whole thing. They give him the interaction that we were after for 6 hours, and they love up on him. They're swimming all around him. They're rolling and looking at him. And I swear to God, Spence, the reason is because he was not in any form of pursuit. He was just this dorky, floppy, splashy, older dude, a little bit out of shape, not at all like the animal guy there to focus on these animals. And they just loved up all over him. And he just got the best orca interaction I've ever seen a human being get, period. And there I was sitting in the boat, 300 yards away, just with my arms in the air with frustration. And
that's remarkable.
They knew. The orcas knew.
That's amazing. Are orcas, were you to encounter an orca in the wild, have they ever attacked a human? Are you broadly speaking quite safe?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You're quite safe. And they have it, you seeing these orcas attack boats recently. I forget where, Caspian Sea? No, I don't know. Have you been seeing this where the orcas will pull the props off boats and things? But to date, there has never been an orca attack on a person in the wild. They've never killed a person in the wild.
I think it would be very scary, actually, to see an orca coming at you in the sea, even if it was for a cuddle.
Yeah, well, my uncle was petrified, so understandably. Yeah.
This is an advertisement from BetterHelp. As men, we're taught to tough it out, hide stress, push through, and never let it show. But realistically, bottling it up doesn't make it disappear. You can't kick problems down the road. You have to be proactive and take action. True strength is knowing when to ask for help, and therapy can be a great resource to gain the clarity and tools to work through life's challenges. I wouldn't be in the mental place that I am today if I didn't do the work with trained professionals, both physically and mentally. Think of your therapist as a spotter in the gym. It's not about weakness, it's about having the right support to lift heavier and lift more frequently. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/untapped. That's betterhelp.com/untapped. Finishing up in Antarctica then. So we're going to journey down all the way to Antarctica. This will be the 7th Ironman distance triathlon in about 23 days, 23 to 25 days, depending on travel and flights being delayed and cancelled or whatever else. We will be absolutely knackered by this stage, and I'll be faced with, again, a 3.8K swim, open water, and 180K on ice and snow, and then a full marathon. Is my concern about leopard seals a real thing?
No, it's not. Sorry.
Well, I don't know why I'm saying. I mean, yay!
I mean, here's the thing: leopard seals are highly predatory. They're incredible, unbelievable animals, but they eat penguins. You're not a penguin. They can be defensive. They can be aggressive. The only place they can run a whopping 2 kilometers per hour on land, just so you know. So as long as you can move faster than that on your bike or on land, that's it. Yeah. They're just a big sausage. They can't move on land at all. So the only place
big sausage.
Yeah. The only place you could have an issue is in the water, where they can swim much faster than you. But I think the likelihood of swimming next to one is pretty slim.
Well, so there's this guy, Anders Hoffman, who achieved the first Ironman distance triathlon in Antarctica, and he made a film about it called Project Iceman. Cool. And he's a great young man, actually. He believes, like I believe, that kind of boundaries are perceptions, and was very interested in proving that by doing this incredible feat, being the first person to achieve it. There's only been one other person to achieve it in Antarctica as well. His name's Connor Emeny.
Wow.
Sorry. So I will be the third person to do an Ironman in Antarctica. So as I understand it, and this is from his Instagram, they only noticed this footage in post-production. So he is swimming behind a boat as part of his 3.8K swim. And this leopard seal that is much bigger than him basically swims up and kind of glides the surface of the water with its belly next to the boat. It's about the size of the boat, by the way, the leopard seal.
I'm sure.
And then it disappears off. So, it came and had a good old look at him and the boat, and then went off, and nobody noticed at the time. And they noticed it in the drone footage of him swimming when they were making the film. And I'm assuming, I mean, I'm no animal expert, but I wouldn't say he was like safe in that encounter. I don't know. No, should I wear a red wetsuit or something, or will that make it worse?
Well, I wouldn't wear anything that's black and white. I wouldn't go in a penguin suit if I were you. But no, look, I think you're right. He probably wasn't safe. But consider this: leopard seal can swim much faster than he can. It came up, it had a look, and it swam away without interest. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, what is this? This is unusual. So it had a look, and it swam away without interest. If you want to really sort of understand the level of intelligence and abilities of a leopard seal, take a look at Paul Nickland. You can do this on Instagram or whatever. Take a look at his story about how a leopard seal fed him penguins. So this incredible, he's a friend of mine, this guy named Paul, this incredible photographer, was down there on a mission to film and shoot leopard seals. And while he was there, he hopped in the water, and this leopard seal thought that he was struggling so much because he's a human and he's so awkward in the water that it went out, caught penguins, and were bringing them to him to feed him, to try and strengthen him, to say, Paul, here, take this. Like, if you eat this, you'll feel better. You'll have more strength. And if that doesn't show you the intelligence of a leopard seal, I don't know what does. And it's pretty incredible to see this predatory apex creature go out, hunt down some food, and bring it back to a human to try and help that human, which is, again, it's anthropomorphizing, but there's no other explanation for why the leopard seal would do this. And the photos and videos that Paul got from that are unbelievable. So, look, can a leopard seal do damage? Absolutely. It could kill you. It could rip you to shreds. Will it? Highly, highly unlikely. I would say you're much safer swimming with a leopard seal in Antarctica, taking frostbite and things like that out of the equation, than you are running around Cape Town. I think you are. Or Rio, or Miami, or London. I swear.
Okay. Well, it's kind of disappointing, I suppose. It takes the fun out of trying to avoid these things. I mean, will I go and pet one if I see it?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Oh, so they're not particularly friendly then?
Yeah, you just avoid them. You just, it sounds like somebody was swimming beside one, that guy you said. So, I mean, I don't know. As far as like wearing a red wetsuit or something, it probably couldn't hurt, because being black and white does make you look like, the white hands, white head, white feet, whatever, and then a black wetsuit does make you look a bit penguinish. So I would say maybe getting a bright colored wetsuit couldn't hurt. But overall, the likelihood of a leopard seal coming to attack you on your swim is very, very slim.
So from all of the continents that we've discussed, and excluding people, what is single-handedly what I should look out for the most?
Mosquitoes. Absolutely. Yeah. The biggest threat to you everywhere you go is going to be parasitic. So whether that's mosquitoes, drinking bad water and ingesting a parasite that way, all of the animals that we've discussed can be avoided by you being aware of it, right? You keep your eyes out, look for a snake, run around it, go through a dense area of jungle and be like, oh, this isn't a good spot for tigers, because it looks very wild here. However, you cannot avoid the little things, and they're always the things that'll kill you. And what I mean by that is one mosquito bite and you get dengue fever, right? One sip of water in Southern Africa and you get bilharzia in your system. Like, those are the things that you have to be the most aware of. And they're the things that nobody thinks of, and they're the things that are by far the most life-threatening.
Okay, and outside of them, act like a predator, take the risk of a fight, but never act like prey.
That's it.
Or you will be treated as such.
That's it. You've nailed it. That should be the title of your next book.
What would you say in your incredible career, by the way? I'm so fascinated. I could take up a day of your time by hearing your stories. I really love your expertise in the field that we've been discussing.
Thank you.
What would you say is single-handedly the greatest experience you've had in the wild? Has there been a moment in your career where you've come across an animal that you've been tracking or looking for, and you've had a kind of, almost incredible emotional, moment with an animal?
There have been a few. There's a couple that stand out. The first time I had a wild elephant, come right down beside me when I was a little boy in Manapool, Zimbabwe, and a couple things like that. But one that stands out above the rest is the Fernandina Island tortoise. So in the Galapagos, there's an island called Fernandina Island. And on that island, there was a species of tortoise that hadn't been seen in 114 years. The last one found was collected by the California Academy of Sciences and killed immediately and put into collection. And everybody, the Ecuadorian government, the Colombian government, the Ecuadorian government and the Galapagos Conservancy, and everybody said it's extinct. You're wasting your time. Like, how stupid this was, blah, blah, blah. And we went on this expedition, and the expedition was quite hellish. But the moment that I literally dove into the bush, like I was trying to catch a cheetah, and it was a tortoise, and I lifted up this thing, literally to date, the rarest animal in the world. There's only one known individual of the species on the planet, and I found her in a bush and lifted her up. It was a very, don't tell my wife this, because she would think having our kids or getting married would be one of the greatest moments of my life. But it was by far the greatest moment of my life, picking up the silly old tortoise. And I mean, it was It was absolutely incredible. And literally lifting the crown jewel of rare animals. There is nothing more rare on the planet than this individual. It's literally one of its species. And there was a group of us, but we found it in a bush in the Galapagos on this tiny remote volcanic island. And it was an incredible, it stands out more than anything else.
That is amazing. It is, honestly, a one-of-a-kind creature that you had been told was extinct, and you found
for
it.
114 years. Yeah, not exactly for a short amount of time.
You've also done some really interesting work with is it called de-extinction?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could you give us just some very high-level top-line info on what de-extinction is?
De-extinction is TBD. It's to be determined. But basically, it's a new field of science that is working on bringing animals back from extinction. Now, that can be done a couple ways. You can take animals that are extinct in the wild and still exist in captive populations and breeding them and reintroducing them. You can take animals that have close living relatives and working genetically to bioengineer them to bring them back to previously extinct animals. In other words, taking an Indian elephant and turning it into a woolly mammoth. And putting those back into an ecosystem. So de-extinction is a whole new field of science, but exactly as it sounds, it's about bringing animals back from extinction. And specifically where I think it's so important and what I care about is fixing things that we have broken. So bringing back animals from extinction that we as human beings have directly driven to extinction.
Are you trying to bring back the woolly mammoth?
I am. I'm part of a very large group of scientists working on that. So, we work with a company called Colossal Biosciences, which is a genetic engineering company, and they are the forefront runners, the leaders on de-extinction. And so, just on Monday last week, we announced the dire wolf, which was an incredible thing. They sequenced genomes from the dire wolf, and they built dire wolves. 3 of them that have been publicly announced. And then what else is publicly known is that we are working on bringing back the dodo, working with the government of Mauritius, going to restore dodos to the island of Mauritius, working on the woolly mammoth, and working on the thylacine.
I said, I made a joke that you wouldn't care about dodos because you'd be more focused on like woolly mammoths. And I was
on
like,
the list.
I was like, I bet they don't bring back the dodo, but
Nope,
you are bringing back the dodo.
It's literally the next one on the list, yeah.
So that's incredible. And
it will be.
So what is going to happen with these animals? So you look at the dire wolves, which for anybody listening that doesn't know what a dire wolf is, it's like a large white wolf.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, I
right.
don't mean to keep making references to kind of TV shows, but like it's a little bit like the kind of Game of Thrones wolf.
It is Game of Thrones, yeah. 100%.
That is a dire wolf, right?
Yeah, we've had George R.R. Martin go and see the dire wolves. Yeah, it's literally Game of Thrones, yeah.
Okay, and like these things will be where?
So the dire wolves are a proof of concept. They're just to show the world what the technology is capable of, and the same technology has already been applied to clone North American red wolf, which is the most critically endangered wolf species in the world. We've blood cloned them. There's only like 20 left 13 or something left in the wild. So we've blood cloned the North American red wolf. So it's a proof of concept to show how the technology can be used for conservation. But moving forward, and it's not like you don't make a dodo and just be like, here you go, buddy, off you go into the wild. Like, it doesn't work that way. We're going to slowly make dodos, making gene edits, create these animals. And I'm a conservation advisor. I don't even pretend to understand how the genetic side works. But we're going to slowly make these animals, dodos, thylacines, things like that, and use them to repair damaged ecosystems. And so by putting dodos back into Mauritius slowly and over time and through very careful procedure of reintroduction, that will help restore not only an iconic species, but dodos were ecological engineers. They bioengineered the forest by eating and dispersing seeds and cracking things open. So it helps repair broken ecosystems. Thylacine going back into Tasmania will wipe out the massive mange epidemic, the overpopulation of macropods that are grazing the place to death, facial tumor disease. All these diseases and things are rampant on the island of Tasmania because it no longer has a predator, and that predator is the thylacine. So by bringing that predator back and putting it back into the ecosystem, again, not tomorrow by dumping 4 of them out there and being like, good luck, buddy, but by slowly doing reintroduction efforts and doing tests and things like that, the goal is to repair damaged ecosystems. And the technology is certainly there, and we've proven it this past couple of weeks.
Is it ever a concern that these animals went extinct in the first place for a reason, and maybe this feels like we're kind of playing God a bit, or has that thought crossed your mind? I'm not suggesting that I would be on that side of the fence. I'm just curious as to how that might feel to somebody who's working in your field.
Well, I think you should. I think that thought should cross your mind. It should cross everybody's mind because we are playing God. But to be clear, we were playing God when we wiped them off the face of the earth to begin with. We're the reason that the dodo is gone. We're the reason that the thylacine is gone. So all Colossal and the team of scientists working there are doing is trying to repair damage that we've already done. The direwolf is an exception. Again, that's a proof of concept that animals never going out into the wild. You're not going to be running through California or Alaska going, holy shit, our direwolf's going to attack me, because that's not the plan. They're not being put back into an ecosystem. But a lot of these animals that we're working on the de-extinction for are to be returned to ecosystems eventually. And again, that is playing God, because we played God by removing them in the first place. We just weren't as cognizant of it at the time.
Will the woolly mammoth be returned to an ecosystem?
It's supposed to be, and we'll see how it goes. There's a place called Pleistocene Park that's in Siberia, Russia, that is doing tests right now, basically simulating woolly mammoths by using tractors and other large megafauna, because during the time of woolly mammoths, what most people don't realize is woolly mammoths were also ecosystem engineers, and they were ecosystems engineers by crushing snow and compacting the snow, knocking over trees, and making the Arctic up to 6 degrees colder in general. And so now, as we're rapidly seeing the melting of the permafrost year over year, a large piece of that can be attributed to the loss of mammoths in the Arctic ecosystem. So mammoths are a lot more delicate than the other 2 species I mentioned, the thylacine and the dodo, because we don't really know how much they should be in an ecosystem, at what abundance, at what density, because, and again, most people don't know this, but mammoths were around during the time of the pyramids. They weren't gone that long ago. So we have to do that one much more strategically and carefully, and think about how to do it and where and how to rewild them. But ultimately, the goal is to put some mammoths back in the ecosystem.
What's been the kind of most dangerous or hairiest moment of your career? You must have come close to death at some point.
I've had a few. I've been in 2 plane crashes now. I've been mauled by a lion, stung by a stingray. I got tagged by a venomous snake. I've had a couple. I think the most dangerous of all of them, it's always human related. It's always human related. Like, we got chased by rebels in Mozambique. We got sentenced to, but not executed, in Myanmar. It's always human related. Those are by far the most dangerous moments for me.
What was getting mauled by a lion like?
Well, that's by far the least exciting story, but I'm happy to tell it. And it's like your buddy who got bitten in the aquarium. He leaves out certain details, but I won't. I'll tell you the truth, which is, when I was a kid, our neighbors had a game farm, and they were raising some orphan lions. And so the lions were relatively friendly. I was 13 or 14 years old, and I used to go and play with them and do behavioral enrichment. And I was in there with a pillowcase full of feathers, playing with the lion cubs. And they weren't little cubs. They were pretty subadults, relatively large. And the lions lost interest, and this just shows my noviceness at the time. So I was like, all right, they're done. So I turned to walk out, and I flung the pillowcase over my back, and that made one turn on. And again, act like prey, treat you like prey. I turned my back. I showed my weak spot, and this lion came up and just dug its claws in and went down my back. So I don't remember how many stitches, but it was a lot. And the scars are still there, a few of them to show it. And that was my mauling. It wasn't too bad. our friends who own the game farm were sitting right there. They managed to pull the lion off me pretty quickly, but yeah, he got his nails into me pretty good.
Well, I've used up just about all we have time for, and also I'm aware you're probably very busy. So thank you so much for spending time with me today and taking me on that fascinating tour of the world. I found that deeply interesting, and I'll certainly take it into consideration when on our tour later the year.
Hey, I'm looking forward to following along and seeing how you do on all these swims and things. If you get eaten by anything, it's not my fault. All right.
Well,
yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. If I listen, as we say, very low risk, but not impossible.
Very low.
And listen, we'll give you a call if we encounter anything dangerous. All right.
Spencer, thanks for having me.
Lots of love, buddy. Thank you. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed that conversation. And if you want to hear more incredible conversations with extraordinary people to help unlock potential within all of us, then please subscribe, follow, and review the show wherever you're listening or watching. It really does help us out so we can continue bringing you these awesome conversations every single week without fail. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next week right here on Untapped. When you're tired, dehydrated, and struggling to concentrate, making smart decisions gets a little tough. That's why I take Vitals by Heights every single day. Initially, my team recommended it to me to keep me firing on all cylinders because it's not just about keeping my legs moving, it's about keeping my brain switched on and ideally making better life choices. Vitals are packed with 20 essential nutrients, including omega-3s for brain power, B vitamins for energy, and vitamin D3, all formulated by scientists and dietitians. And it just gives me that extra edge, better focus, sharper thinking, sustained energy, faster recovery, and deeper sleep, all in 2 capsules a day. Vitals are the smartest way to fuel your body and mind, so give it a go. Get 20% off your first month subscription at heights.com/untapped or use code UT20 at checkout.